Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Wow Show. I apologize for not being around for the past 2 weeks, but sometimes a girl needs a break. This afternoon, I am so privileged to be sitting down with the beautiful, the vivacious, the artistic Dame Heather Doram from Antigua. So, how are things over there in Antigua for you, Mr. Ram?
Very well, hot as everywhere else and dusty. But otherwise than that, we're doing pretty good.
I know it's been so hot here. It's literally horrible to get dressed because the moment that you get out the shower, you feel like you need to jump straight back in. But we give thanks. We could be having worse weather, so you
Yeah.
know we'll bear with it. But
Yeah.
you are from Antigua, and you
Yes.
are a woman that wears many hats. So tonight we're going to try and uncover some of that. But guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy the Wow Show. So, guys, if you're just tuning into the Wow Show now, I am your host, Vinaya Bass, and this evening I am with the fantastic Heather Doram, who is from Antigua. So, Miss Doram, we're going to jump into it by taking things all the way back to your childhood. You had a remarkable journey, attending Antigua Girls High School, and then you eventually ended up attending the Venice Biennale. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. What was the moment that you realized that art was your calling?
There wasn't a specific moment at all. I just knew from the time I was a very small infant that this is what I love to do. This was going to be my life. I don't care where the journey was going to take me, but anything that had anything whatsoever to do with art, that's what my passion. And I can remember in our homes back then, we didn't have like art shops. We didn't have art book or crayons or things like that. And once I got my hands on a pencil, we always had libraries in the house, and I would be finding that blank page in the novel and do drawings. My parents would sometimes spank me for doing stuff like that, but I was always drawing. Hence, when I got to Antigua Girls High School, believe it or not, I gravitated to those subjects that had anything to do with some bit of drawing, which included things like geography, biology, anything, even geometry. I like drawing the angles with the pencils and the rulers, and yeah, it was just an innate thing that's what I wanted to do with my life.
That's fantastic. And do you think that that was influenced in any way by growing up on the sugar estates in Antigua during your childhood?
Um, I would say that maybe the subject matter later on and some of the techniques that I utilize probably were influenced, heavily from my upbringing and my exposure to things like sewing. And my mom taught all of her children, but at least tried to teach all of us how to use the sewing machine, and also developed my love of fabrics. I love anything to do with fabrics, textiles, the printing of it, the dyeing of it, whatever. I just have a love for textiles. So I think, in addition, the narratives of my paintings, the things that I gravitated to, um, are deeply rooted in my childhood and my upbringing, my life in the countryside, my love of nature, my love of Antiguan sunsets. We grew up on the estate, so of course, we were surrounded by persons who were cutting the sugar canes, carrying the baskets on their heads. That is like imprinted in my brain that I just had to pay homage to these persons and how hard they work and their resilience. And in addition, a lot of my relatives on both my father and my mother's side grew up in nearby villages, and we would visit these villages very often. And just seeing the women going to the sea to get the fish, and they would be sitting on the donkey backs and walking with the fish, the basket with the fish on their heads and things like that. For some reason, that has left a lasting impression on me, not only visually, but for what they represented, that they were really the backbones of our community. And it's because of their hard work and resilience that I am here today, and why I'm able to accomplish a lot of the things that I accomplished. And, this strength and this resilience that has been instilled in me, I think comes from way back, seeing and observing that type of activity.
So speaking about the influence of women back then, one thing I really admire about women from back in the day is that their level of style and class. I think that we're losing in the modern world, if I'm honest. Less is more these days. But especially when I look at someone like you, even on your social media, one thing that always stands out is that you love to get dressed up. So where did that stem
My
from?
mom. My mom, I think. Yeah, my mom was a trendsetter. I can remember specific outfits even today. I can remember them. You used to have these books which had the patterns, and you iron the pattern onto the fabric. And she would embroidery a design here, and she'd do her box pleats and skirt. And when she went out, she was put together. She had her earrings, her necklaces, her little pumps, and the dresses were unusual. I never saw anybody else around that time who was, wearing the clothes like she was wearing. And, we had there were 7 children in the family, 7 girls. So she really had to stretch the dollar, of course, to support all of us, but she still found a little extra to buy fabric. And she would sew outfits for us, and she would sew outfits for herself. So I was strongly influenced, I would say, by her and her sense of style. And even, the way she carried her hair and her lipstick, I just thought she was the most beautiful thing in the world. And I think my love of fabrics and that sense of style comes from her. And then it's, I piggybacked off the fact that I'm just generally a creative person. People always ask, like, where I get this sense of putting myself together. And when I get up in the mornings, I'm very heavily influenced by the weather and what the day's like. If I'm feeling down and dreary, I said, no, I'm not going to wear that gray outfit again. I want something to brighten my day. So I'll find something maybe red, yellow, orange, something more vibrant. I tell people that just as I prepare a canvas and I put these images and my thoughts on a canvas, I do the same thing with my body. I like, my body, I dress it like a canvas, what goes with this, what's going to make me feel, great today. It really affects my mood, the way I dress.
That's true, actually, because sometimes you don't even realize that you are dressing based on your mood. Even when I was in the UK, I'd realize that during winter I'll gravitate to greys and black without even thinking about it. It's almost
you should be doing the opposite. You should be doing the
opposite. That's the thing. So in summer, you naturally just gravitate to like pastels and stuff like that. So it's really interesting how impactful it is, the clothes that you're wearing. And speaking about, using your clothing as a canvas, your work as an artist often intertwines traditional techniques with more contemporary themes. Can you share with us a particular piece where you feel like you truly blended the two?
I think a lot of those pieces are gone, but I can give you some idea of what I'm speaking about.
Ooh, wow.
So this is a piece. All of the texture that you see here is created by the sewing machine, stitches, not by brush strokes.
Oh, wow.
The name of this piece is I Am Torn, I Am Hurt, I Hurt. So
for those who are listening on the radio, can you just explain what we're looking at?
Okay, so this is a piece, and there are 2 beautiful eyes staring out from behind some torn fabric. And the bits of fabric are held together by safety pins. And that is representative or symbolic of our lives as women. The fact that we hurt deeply, we have so much to carry, we have so much going on. And in everyday life, we try at all times to keep it all together. So the safety pins is keeping us grounded, keeping us together. And to make it look more like bark or skin, the outer skin, I have done cross hatching with the sewing machine. All of this is stitches with the sewing machine. So that again went right back to my mom teaching me to use the sewing machine, my love of stitching and my love of fabrics. The material that I work with is felt. I do a lot of work on felt. It's the felt that is used for soundproof in studios. I discovered that
Okay.
material when I was doing some exploration at grad school. And I found why I liked it is because I can paint on it with acrylic paints mostly, and then I can go in and do the details with the sewing machine. I would also add texture by doing a lot of beading and also using applique. I have another one here.
Mm.
This is an image of the market women that I'm speaking about, those women that I would have seen growing up on the sugar estate or in the market or in the villages that I visited. And in my previous work, all the dresses and the bodies of the women would have been attached to the background with machine stitching. In this
Okay.
instance, it's pasted on. But that was the original type of work that I used to do. So I would applicate these women onto the background with machine stitching. I also do things like quilting. That is where you attach the fabric and then you stuff behind the fabric with like cotton fiber. I have a little bit of it here.
Okay.
In this area, in this leaf, it's three-dimensional because it has been stuffed with cotton material. And all this detail that you see here, all of this detail is done with the sewing machine. So I really love using the sewing machine. I have
It's
moved
really
away a little bit.
interesting that you
Pardon?
incorporate. It's really interesting that you're not just painting, that you're incorporating the
Yeah,
sew as well. One of the things that
I'll
jump
show
out to
you.
me about those pieces is that you also can go from very dark pieces that make you want to think and explore more about, what you're trying to say, to
Yes.
the more traditional piece with the women going to the market, which is quite self-explanatory. So tell me a
Yes.
little bit about why or how you're able to switch between the two.
Excuse me, I didn't hear that.
So I said you went, so the first piece that you showed was very dark. It required a lot
Yes.
of thoughts and explanation and really looking beyond just what's in front of
Uh-huh.
you when
Yeah.
compared to the market scene, which is quite
Yes.
self-explanatory. So
Yes.
how are you able to go between the two? Because those are two very different styles of art.
Yes. Anybody who has followed me on social media or know me, my work, up close and personal, will know that I work with two separate and distinct themes at all times. You have described both of them perfectly. In one of the collections that I do, it's always very well thought out pieces, narratives about social issues, narratives about my life, about the lives of women in general, what we have been through, where I would like us to be, pieces that suggest empowerment of women. And then there's another collection completely and apart from this one, which basically showcases the things I love about Antigua and the Caribbean. The market woman will fit into that second collection. That second collection would involve things like my beautiful sunsets with all those colors, the markets, the beaches, So I work at two things at the same time. It just depends on where my mind is at the same time at once. So that second collection would have like palm trees and so my it just depends. I wake up today and I feel like doing one of those. But my pieces from the first collection always have a story. There's always a narrative. What I try to do when the thoughts come to me, I usually have a book in which I start writing down the thoughts. I'll give you a good example. Um, I was here doing a painting when that event happened in the United States where this gentleman called George Floyd, I think he was killed
Yes.
with this policeman, actually suffocated him to death. And I don't know for what reason. Well, I guess any Black person, I can't say, I don't know for what reason, but it brought up a lot of anger in me. I was really, really, just questioning, life and the lives of Black people and wondering, this is 2000 and I think 23 it might have happened. And, there was I having hope that we reach, a bit further than that incident, implied. And so an idea came to me that I needed to create a piece based on that. And the piece was called Back on the Plantation. And it had a woman, she was supposed to symbolize like a slave woman with the white head tie. And in front of her were these cotton plants with the bulbs of cotton and the flowers and stuff like that. And I'm saying it's almost like if um, white people, I'm going to refer to them as that, think that we don't deserve to be anywhere in the world but perhaps back on the plantation. So that's what that piece was about. And so, sometimes a social issue can come about. Maybe it's something I want to celebrate, but there's always a story behind each piece of art from that particular collection, which I do. So that first piece that I showed you with the tone I'm hurt, I was part of a group performance based, Women of Antigua. And I had been asked to do a part in this stage play, The Vagina Monologues by Eve Enslow. They produced that. And then they decided that we have enough talent in Antigua that all these young ladies were asked to create pieces. And so I was asked to perform a piece at that on that stage as well. And before that show, we had an art exhibition, and that piece was a part of that art exhibition because the funds that were raised by those performances went towards women who were physically, mentally, and sexually abused, and it was in collaboration with the Gender Affairs Division. So that piece is from that collection.
It's a really powerful piece, and I just want to take things back a little bit because I know that you studied at the Edna Manley College in Jamaica, and then you went on to the Savannah College of Art and Design in the USA, and your work was chosen to be featured at the Venice Biennale, which is a very honor. First of all, explain to us novices who may not know how significant that honor is, what it means. And also what it was like for your work to be showcased on such a prestigious
it was very significant to me. It's one of those high points of my life because I went to the school to do my master's degree. And yes, I went there knowing certain things. I would have learned a lot at Edna Manley and other things on my own. So I went there and I was still doing the pieces like the market woman with the appliques and stuff like that. And then I quickly realized, no, Heather, we already know that you can do that. What else can you do? So basically, each of us had to go into a studio space and just explore and come up with something new, something unique, but still expressing who you are and your culture and stuff. And so that's when I discovered this material, this felt that I use. And I was also heavily influenced by the Aboriginal bark paintings. So to me, the felt was a perfect vehicle for me to do something that represented who I was, represented my culture, to represent the lives of women. And so I did these pieces. For my thesis exhibition, some of these pieces started up on the wall and came right down onto the floor of the gallery. And these were pieces that were strips of felt stitched together. And each layer of that strip told something about my life, my history, my culture. And then it was set up like a spiritual space, like a place where you will come, and do your incantations and so the professors were really amazed at the quality, the quantity, and this new style of work that I've done and the technique. And lo and behold, of all the thousands of students who graduate every year, the owners of the school, the Rowans, were invited to my show. That was an honor in itself because no way they go to everybody's show. But I think they were impressed, right? Yeah, so that was really big deal for me. So they came to my show and she was super impressed that she had never seen anything like that before. And so when it came time for the school to be represented at the Biennale, my work was selected. I think there were maybe about 3 pieces that were sent. And I thought, wow, I cannot believe this. This little woman from Antigua went there, and her piece of work was selected to represent the school at that's the largest modern art show in the entire world, and my
Wow.
work has been there. And in addition to that, after those pieces came back and I had my pieces show, the owners of the school, they decided that they wanted to purchase my pieces collection.
Wow.
So my thesis collection is somewhere stored. I haven't been back to Savannah, but I know my thesis collection was purchased by the school. I guess they have shows from time to time when it comes out, but that's very, very proud, for me that all of this happened.
That's absolutely fantastic. And on
Mhm,
that note, guys, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be
mhm.
right back after this. So thank you so much for tuning in so far, guys. If you are just tuning in now, this is Vinaya Bass, your host, and you are listening to The Wow Show. This afternoon, I am so excited to be sitting down with the beautiful Heather Doram, a creative visual artist, everything extraordinary from Antigua. And so far, we have just been discussing her career, her art, her style. And just now, she was just telling us about, being able to showcase her work at the prestigious Venice Biennale. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. But after you attended the Savannah College of Art and Design in the USA, you returned to Antigua and you took on the role within the Ministry of Education. How did your experience as an artist influence the way that you approached arts education in the schools?
Yeah. I am accepting your question, but I just want to go back a little bit to my achievement at Edna Manley as well.
Oh,
Because
okay. Oh,
look at this.
bring it. Yeah, okay. So, well, we explain it for
So
those
this
who
is a catalog. Edna Manley celebrated their 50 years in 2000. So this
okay.
catalog was produced, and the 50 artists were celebrated in this catalog.
And is yours on the front page?
No, I'm not on the front page, you're going to say. So this is my page.
Oh, congratulations. So 50 artists
So
over
they have,
50 years.
if you notice, they have one of the carnival costumes.
Mhm. That's exciting.
Yeah. So that's a very proud moment for me as well, because for how long the school was in existence, I must
Mhm.
have made some sort of impact because I was
Absolutely.
one of 50 artists celebrated in their catalog. So that's
Because
another
I'm
proud
sure
moment.
thousands of students have passed through that school over the course of 50 years. So for you to be featured, that's absolutely fantastic.
That
So
was a big deal.
congratulations.
That was a big deal for me as well. Yes.
So,
So
so
coming
many
back to
accolades to your name. There's so many accolades, but
yeah,
like
some of them I
that's
don't remember. So a lot of the times I don't remember some of them. Yes. So I
yeah. So
came
my
back.
question was how does your art influence the way that you approach arts education? Within your role in the Ministry of Education.
Yes. I think that I try to institute a shift in the way that the subject was being taught, because I was in charge of the visual arts program in the primary and secondary schools in Antigua, creating curriculum, sourcing materials, doing workshops and things like that. And I found that the way it was being done, even how the subject was called, it was arts and craft, right? It was divided into arts and craft. And I was trying to create this shift towards it's the visual arts. It's the visual arts. So, let's elevate our subject to that level. And we're not just teaching students to just get a piece of fabric and do little stitches and stuff like that. I wanted to integrate art and life. Art is life, it is living, it's a living organism for me. And I wanted to show the students how important the visual arts is and how we can integrate it into all aspects of our lives. So if I am going to teach a young person how to do, like, let's say, block printing on fabric, you can't just teach this concept in isolation. You're going to show that young person how they can utilize that skill or that technique. It can become a lifelong, their job, money earner. It could be a side job, whatever it is. But we can't just teach these concepts in isolation. You have to make them applicable. And I think it's only by doing that that the young people understand how important our subject area is. In addition, we also just saw the visual arts as something that we teach to the children who we think like are not as intelligent as others, who are a bit slow or something like that. And that's furthest from the truth, because the visual arts employs, I would say, one of the areas which develops the critical thinking skills in individuals, which is so needed in other subjects like mathematics and science and things like that. Because I am going to maybe tie-dye this piece of fabric. You have to understand the technique, these different chemicals that you're going to be mixing to do the dyeing. You have to understand, how is it that I'm going to make this dye stay permanently in this fabric and not wash out every time I put it under the sink? What decision making you have to take to decide, oh, no, that fabric is synthetic. This can't take the dye. You have to know, so as simple as it is. So, oh, it's just tie-dye. As simple as it is, there's a lot of decision making and a lot of critical thinking skills that have to take place. And that is why I think some students will fail the visual arts simply because, they undervalue what the subject is, first of all, and they don't have an understanding of what it takes to, when you're asked to produce something like a floor mat, for instance, or like a shower mat, and then you go and choose a real slippery synthetic fabric that as soon as you step on it, you go flying. So as simple as some people, look at this particular subject area, it's much more technical than people understand. And I think a lot of work I put into trying to make that shift and trying to make people understand the value of visual arts, because there were very few students who were signing up to do visual arts. The parents are not interested in them doing it. They're interested in them doing like the mathematics, the science, whatever it is, and they were shying away from that. But it can be a very gratifying career path to take, and I think I might be a living example of that.
But I think it's also because in the Caribbean and amongst most ethnic minorities, we've always been told that you need to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant. And what you just explained was the practical application of art. Because even though we take art for granted, art is the clothes that you wear, it's the ornament in your household, it's the cup that you drink your tea from. But because we've always been told that being a creative is not necessarily something that you can make money from or a living, I think it's been stigmatized for most people. So what you just demonstrated is not even just the practical application of art, but also the ability to develop transferable skills by pursuing art. So
but there's another side to it. There's another side to it. I'm going to give an example of that. There are lots of men and women, I know quite a few of them, who were very interested, excited about the subject area in school. But as you said, mommy and daddy wanted them to go off and become a lawyer. But guess what? In their later years now, they have gravitated towards things like photography, painting. And in that regard, I want to speak about the other side of the visual arts for me personally, and I know for a lot of other artists. It is the peace, the joy that you get when you produce something, when you're engrossed in making something. That is like the side of it that is not about making money for me. Believe it or not, it's not about, if nobody bought any of my artwork, I would still be producing art. Because when I sit in my studio and I'm painting and I'm creating, I am transported to this other peaceful plane where I'm just joyful and I'm just happy and all the problems of the day melt away. So everybody really needs to find what their passion is and, and find joy, because our daily lives can be so mundane, so filled with all negativity and things like that. And another thing that I'm always trying to sensitize, especially women, is that you need to find something that you're passionate about. What is it did you like to sew? Did you like to paint? Did you like to crochet? Maybe you like to take photographs or whatever, because we all need to live that balanced sort of life. And I think the visual and the creative and the performing arts is that area that is going to bring that peace and that contentment to your life.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you mentioned there with the Edna Manley achievement, being featured in the booklet, is that you also create carnival costumes. So
Yeah.
not only do you create carnival costumes, but you've also won several awards with your husband. How does collaboration in art differ from working solo? Because it's one thing to be in your studio and you're at peace and
Yeah.
you're doing things your own way. But how were you able to work collaboratively with your husband, who's especially someone that's really close to you?
Okay, so let me tell you how this whole thing. Okay, so when I met him and I was dating him, he was heavily involved in this. He loves carnival. So he was in it way before I met him.
Okay.
So going to the yard where these costumes were made on many occasions, I just started eyeing this thing as a creative, of course, and I'm there saying, I think I could do better, than what I see them doing. And then there was a break there, and I went off to Edna Manley. But after coming back from Edna Manley, I got into it seriously. I was the only woman in the arena of making costumes, and I was a first. And I started really seriously thinking about what I was seeing, what had gone on before. And I started employing what I had learned about good design and putting that into the costume making. So all I had to learn really was about the construction and maybe the materials that I was going to be using. But guess what? He already knew about the construction. So that's where he comes in. So we got seriously into it. He was a part of a mass troupe. And then we created our own mass troupe. We broke away from that, created our own mass troupe. We used to do like Juve troupe, carnival costume, but I was always the designer. And then we graduated from that and started doing the huge individual costumes for the Carnival Queen show. So I would sit down and ideas come to me any old time, any old place. And an idea would come to me and I would just sketch it out on a piece of paper. But the challenge was now I had to get him on the same page with me. And sometimes the questions would get a little annoying, but I knew I need to get it done. It was like, yes, but what height do you want this? Yes, but and once he got it into his head, that's it. We took off. So he was the person who welded the frames, created the three-dimensional shapes, and then both of us would do the decorating together. And I must say, I can't think of any costume that I did. We worked from about 1989. I think the last time we did costumes was 2006. That's Queen costumes. But I
Okay.
continued after that designing for, I don't know if you know, I was designing for the Catholic Church, had a carnival troupe.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
I'll get to that. But the Queen costumes, um, what I was trying to change as well was I wanted the costumes to have a subject. I say this is the topic, this is the subject that we're representing. And when that costume comes out on the stage, you're saying, wow, I can see exactly. If I say I'm doing a Chinese temple, I want it to look like a Chinese temple. Whereas other designers were just like throwing colors together, throwing shapes together. So we aimed really to make the audience see that the topic that we say, like for instance, there's a costume called Il pleut, it's raining in French. And so, of course, I had to have actual umbrellas. The costume was made up of all these umbrellas, the water running down, you had the raindrops coming down.
Wow.
And I think that is what the audience really appreciated about the costumes that my husband and I produced over the years. And many people will tell me today that they went to the Queen shows just to see what we're going to come up with next, if we can top what we did the year before. I was very pleased with my run. Yes, a very successful run. But after a while, we had to come out of that simply because my husband got ill. So a lot of the materials that we use, like the glues and stuff like that, was having an effect on him. So we had to leave that. But then I was approached by the bishop of the Catholic Church, Bishop Donald Reese, and he said he thinks that even religious persons who are in the church can also play mass, but morally, not the skimpy things like what we're seeing today. And I took him up on the challenge. He wanted me to design costumes. So we started out by really bringing back the old cultural characters like the Makajumbi, like the sensei, and lots of people, oh, we don't want to play with that because they're too fully clothed and stuff like that. But I think that's so important to include and have a balance of our culture and, the present culture. They should be integrated in our carnival, that we need to hold on to some of those cultural norms and some of those characters. So I designed for the Catholic Church for many years, and they were very successful as well, because their costumes represented what it said it was representing as well. So I did that. Recently, if somebody approaches me about doing a costume for them, I would still do it. But I'm not really into the actual construction and so on anymore.
Okay. And speaking of art, before I reached out to you for this interview, I was privileged to see one of your art pieces on display at the VC International Airport. And it's amazing because, like you, I love history. I've always admired the market women of the past and how they carried themselves. So tell me a little bit about what inspired that design. For those of you who haven't seen it, the next time you touch down at the airport, you will see it.
Again,
what inspired that design, and what was the message that you wanted to convey?
Again, it's this love that I have. Just seeing these women, I can see some of my aunts now, they always had this very erect posture. They were proud, just how they carried with the head wrap and the basket on top of that. I don't know why that just left such an impression on me. It's like they might not have been the richest persons in the world. They didn't live in mansions, whatever, but they were very proud about who they were. They knew who they were, and they were proud about what they were doing. They were helping their families, raising their families, sending their kids to school and things like that. And that just resonated with me and has resonated with me up to today. So when I was approached, I got a walkthrough. This new airport was being built, and I was invited to do a walkthrough and let them know, what can we do to kind of brighten the space up. There's nothing that gets under my skin more than just seeing blank white walls in a building. I'm just itching to go and put some color on them. And so I said, what would be great? A mural coming from the immigration right around into the baggage claim area. That is your first introduction to Antiguan life. This is our culture. This is our culture. Why not expose them to our culture? So that was no other idea came to me, but join a set of women just walking around the corner, going to the baggage claim area. And they liked the idea. I spent nights up there creating that. What a wonderful opportunity that was for me, because I hadn't seen murals in any of the airports in the region either. I'm seeing some now, but something like that. And I remember after it was completed, the people who worked at the airport were so excited and proud. And they were saying, oh, they should have given you the whole baggage claim area to paint. They think that the mural should have gone down the entire length of the building. But I'm very, very proud of that. That's a legacy that I am leaving there. Who knows, one of these days there might be a bigger airport built, but that's another very, very proud moment for me that I was asked to do that.
And speaking of proud moments, because like I said, you're a woman that wears many hats, you also have an impressive acting career alongside all of your
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about, your foray into
Yeah.
acting? I know that you mentioned the vagina monologues at the top of the
Yes. Yeah,
conversations.
that
Tell
was
us a
part
little
of
bit
it as
about
well.
how you got into acting in the
Yeah,
first place
okay.
and
Well,
how that.
besides, there was these little things that I did. That I just was creative overall because I really enjoyed participating in those little school plays and presentations that we did. It was just like, love this. So, that was kind of not foremost in my mind until a few years ago. We have this local production company, Howard and Mitzi Allen of Hammer Productions. They approached me. They were producing their first full-length movie, The Sweetest Mango, and they wanted me to play a cameo role. So I said, this is another exciting challenge to me. Why not? So I just made this cameo appearance. I was like playing the mom of the lead character. And that just kind of like a little bug bit me because I got to see what it took. It was quite exciting. You went, you got your makeup done, you had your wardrobe, you went on the set, and if you made a mistake, it can be shot again. So, it was anything to be afraid of because you can do the same line maybe 20 times and they just pick the best one. So what's there to be afraid of? There's nothing to be afraid of there. So it was pretty exciting. And I just kind of dismissed that. Yeah, that's it. I experienced it. Lo and behold, they approached me a few years later. They wanted to see me. I said, okay. They now want me to play the lead role in
Wow.
another movie okay, I'm going to say. So this was
So there
Sweetest
was this.
Mango. So that was
Oh
the
yeah.
first one.
Hmm.
Okay, so now that's me.
The next one is you up full and center. Has that no seed?
Yes, right. So I played a female prime minister. You know, had some people in my cabinet who were totally against me and trying to get rid of me. So I just had to take care of them. You know what I mean? So
Kamala Harris before Kamala.
and then what I liked, because this was a role that was, a powerful woman. Yes, there was some little devious undertones, but a woman in charge of a cabinet, of course, I would love to see that, a female prime minister. So I took on the challenge and I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. They really accommodated like my work schedule and stuff like that. We did most of the filming on weekends and things like that. But I would say that was like one of their best productions ever. Not because I acted in it. The acting was off the chain. So that was my foray into film. And then I was approached by a writer from England. Her name is Elaine Spires. She has written several novels and she was coming back and forth to Antigua. And she was acting on the stage in London. She was writing as well as acting. And she approached me about doing something on the stage. Ooh, I didn't know what I was in for. I really didn't know what I was in for at the time. But of course, I'm always up for a challenge. So I said yes. So we did two plays. One was Elroy Prescott has left the building, and the other one was Sweet Lady. I played major role in Elroy Prescott. I was one of the leads, and I played a minor role in Sweet Lady. And it was pretty terrifying. I don't think I'll do it at this age that I am because the memory is not all there. But the difference about you stand performing and the audience is just a few feet away from you and you don't want to laugh. You said something funny, but you have to just go on to your next line. But you took a glance down and you saw your whole family, and everybody reeling back in their chair. And I'm thrown. I'm completely thrown. Anyway, I was able to recover because if you get thrown, of course, you muck up the whole thing because the person will know where should they come in next and stuff like that. But so I have done that. And then, of course, I told you about the Antiguan vagina monologues and so on. All of it was pretty exciting. I guess I'm just a creative person. Not only that, I am very much about taking on challenges, that's things that are thrown my way. Because when I was younger, it's something I made a contract with myself. When I was younger, several times I was asked to do something or be involved in something, but I was very extremely shy, extremely introverted, and I didn't do them. And I look back at persons who went on, and I'm saying, oh, I wish I had done that. So I made a decision to myself. I am never going to make fear make me miss out on anything again in my life. So I take on challenges wholeheartedly with open heart and mind, and I'm going for it. So
That's
that is one
absolutely
of my mantras. Don't make fear prevent you from doing stuff.
fantastic. Fear can mean face everything and rise, or forget everything and run. So you're choosing to face everything
Yes,
and rise. Absolutely. So on
even
that
now
note,
I'm taking on new challenges. Even now.
guys, I can tell. I follow you on Instagram and you are more active than anybody else that I know. But guys,
Obviously.
just on that note, we're going to take a quick break and be right. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Wow Show. If you are just joining us now, I'm Vinaya Bass, and this afternoon I'm sat down with the fantastic Heather Doram, a visual artist, creative extraordinaire from Antigua. And so far, we've just been speaking about her life and all the fantastic things she's done, from gaining recognition at Edna Manley, from her work being featured on international stages, to doing a mural at the Vista International Airport, and also being an actress. Guys, she has done it all. And which is a nice segue, just at the end of our conversation there before the break, you mentioned the importance of, facing your fears. So you've also been very outspoken as an activist for women's
Mhm.
rights. How do you integrate your advocacy into your art? And what message do you hope to send to the next generation of women who may be listening to this show this afternoon and may not be as bold as you?
Yes, I have many messages for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use my art as activism. I would say that I'm a feminist because I decided when I was quite young that I was going to go against the grain and that I wasn't going to just carry on with the socialization that I had growing up from my parents of how a woman should be and a woman's place in life and things like that. And I would say that I'm a feminist where that is concerned. I don't think that women get enough, you know, involvement in like decision making in the top tier and power management kind of level. And I really would like to see persons come into their own to find themselves to really be comfortable in their own skin. Don't shrink to suit any sort of space. Don't shrink because you walk into a room with all men. Don't you shrink yourself. No, you stick your head up even higher. And I learned to do all those things. And I learned to take up space in spaces, no matter who it is. Could be the Queen of England. I'm not going to shrink myself to suit anybody's impression of who I should be, how I should behave, and things like that. So I use my artwork to do that. And as I said before, I usually have the storyline attached to my pieces. But outside of that, I would like persons who view my work to make their own judgment, to come up with their own conclusions of how this artwork, how this piece speaks to them. And quite often, some persons can get, I've had pieces bought here because somebody would have come to my studio and have a look around. And I remember one particular young lady, and she was looking at this piece of work and she was saying, oh, how wonderful everything was. And then she got in front of this piece of work and she just stood there. And the next time I was looking because I wasn't hearing her saying anything. And the next time she spoke, I could hear that break in her voice. And she said, this is it. This is the piece. This is the piece she wants because this woman was speaking to her. There's something in her face, in her look, in her eyes. And that's the kind of engagement that I want from the persons who view my work, that they can find themselves or get a message from what I am trying to say. You don't have to come up with the same conclusion that I have, but I'm very, very happy if you really get engaged in the pieces. So a big thing for me about my activism is telling women that we need to find ourselves first and foremost. I told myself that as well because of how we were socialized, how I was brought up, the community that I grew up in, and the fact that I got married at a very young age. I found that I lost myself. I lost myself after a while. I didn't know who was I? What is it I wanted for myself before I got married? And are you trying to tell me that for my years on earth, I'm just going to be somebody's wife, somebody's mother? No, I think I want to achieve much more than this. I have a passion that I want to succeed at, and I want to do so many things. And it took me kind of coming back and making some shifts in my relationships and speaking things into being and try to make others around me understand the things that I really was about. And I think that shift took place when I was in Savannah College and when I was away from my family and things like that. It was almost like an epiphany, almost like a spiritual awakening to me, that I realized that there had to be a momentous shift when I got back to Antigua for me to start feeling, like myself, and that I'm achieving all the things that I want to achieve, that I'm happy about achieving, all these things that I'm involved in. And I want other women to have that same passion about finding themselves. Stop being so insecure. Make yourself happy. Try to fix whatever is broken in you, because a lot of us go through life with the same hurts and the same trauma from our childhood, and we never make any attempt to fix that trauma, and we just keep taking it forward. I made a concerted effort to heal myself. I made a concerted effort to find peace within myself and remove myself from a lot of situations and persons who are negative, who are toxic. And I decided that I prefer peace. I preferred peace. So persons need to find their passion. They need to embrace change, um, support other women. That's something else that I would like to see. I would like to see women support each other even more. I see a lot of things on social media. I am on social media, but not for the negativity. I'm on social media I use it as a tool of motivation. I use it as a tool to educate myself, to help with my healing. And I think that women need to support each other much more in just, giving a kind word, just support what the efforts that that they're doing. And I don't find that we do that enough. We need to celebrate each other's success. Be happy for others when other persons are doing something positive, when they're achieving something. Just be authentic with their words as well. There are lots of people who, they say they have the good talk, they say the right words, but you need to be authentic with yourself. If you say something, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm not going to do, I must believe that's what you're going to do. You must be authentic, okay? You must believe in yourself. You must know your worth as well. Don't shrink, and most of all, live out loud and just take up space.
And following the footsteps of Heather Doram. So one of the interesting things about you as well is that you actually retired from your official roles in 2006, which is a cool 18 years ago.
Yeah.
And how do you continue to be motivated to create? Because one of the things I realize, especially when people retire, they literally retire in the sense of they
Yeah.
almost give up on life, like, waiting around for that final hour. So what motivates you to continue creating?
Because again, I'm going back to me going against the grain. I have seen too many women and men, but I mostly focus on women, who retire and just start shrinking, just start folding into themselves. They used to dress up every day when they were going to work, and suddenly they're home and they're just in their pajamas all day and whatever. And I decided a long time ago that was not going to be me. Retirement is not the end of your life. To me, retirement, my kids were grown, they have their own families, and I have stopped working. Man, this is the time for me to enjoy my life, enjoy everything that's out there, to travel, any experience that comes my way, go out with my girlfriends, go to events, enjoy plays, enjoy nature. I think that's something as I always speak about in my activism about not giving up on life. Life is to be lived until you're on your deathbed. You know, there's so much that life has to offer. And I don't know if it is a lack of preparation or what, that I see a lot of women who just stop doing things, stop taking care of themselves, stop carrying themselves, stop socializing with other persons. I I don't know. I have something of like a youthful spirit. I try to keep up with what's going on, especially with the younger generation. I communicate a lot. I have a lot of younger persons around me. So I try to keep my ear to the ground. I try to keep up on what's going on with technology. Do you know there are lots of women my age that didn't know how to turn on a computer, don't even know what I'm talking about when I speak about creating a website or whatever. But I have to keep on top of things because this world is so fast paced and technology and everything is moving so fast. I decided I wasn't going to be left behind. So, and that is something that keeps your mind, spirit and everything, young, creative. I'm not into doing that thing until I can't move anymore. I am going to keep moving. I'm going to keep active. I'm going to be involved in everything and anything.
Fantastic. And that is absolutely the best way to do it. Because imagine working all these years of your life to then retire and then do nothing. That's when you should be living because, like you said, you've raised your children, you've done everything that you need to do in terms of your responsibilities. Now is the time to live. But reflecting on your fantastic career, what would you say, as my last question, has been your proudest moment?
That's hard.
Oh,
That's
one of
hard.
your proudest moments.
Oh wow, there's so many of them. I have mentioned some of them already, but I would say getting my national award would be high up there as well because you work all your life. You're not working for somebody to give you a prize or medal or anything like that. But when it does happen and somebody recognizes that you have, made a sterling contribution to your community and to your country. So in 2002, I think it was, I was recognized with the Grand Cross of the Most Illustrious Order of Merit for my contribution to the arts and culture and the arts. And I would say that it was a real, proud moment for me as well. Because this is now being recognized by your own country, by your own people. And that I would say is a very, very much up there as a crowning moment for me.
Fantastic. And there you have it, guys. Thank you so much, Miss Heather Doram, for sitting down with me this evening. It's virtually impossible to capture everything about your fantastic career into an hour, but I feel like we've given the audience a taster enough for them to go out and explore the fantastic woman that you are. Thank you very much, everybody who has tuned into the show this afternoon. Up next week, my guest is also another visual artist. Her name is Carol Fraser, and she is from Guyana. So make sure you tune in at the same time and the same place here on Radio Anguilla and Women of the West Indies on Facebook.
I want to talk about one more achievement for me. The next big achievement in this year is the creation of my website. Yes, I'm launching my website, everybody, because it's something I've long dreamt about. So my daughter, graphic designer, created my website for me. So guys, have a look at heatherdoramart.com. heatherdoramart.com. Anything that you can think about. My artwork is on clothing, household items, phone cases, scarves, anything. So have a look, and I'm sure you're going to find something that you would enjoy having.
Absolutely. And thank you so much once again, Mr. Ram.
You are so welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah.